Hello, you fellow creatives and crafters and makers out there. This is Rod Sawatsky from the Pivot Group in Portland, and I'm going to start you off in your Valentine's season and card making endeavors with a little tutorial on using something we in the office love here, that's coffee, to be basically the stand-in for our ink and pigment on paper. A little bit of tools and some watercolor paper are all we need to get started. Feel free to just use the ideas to create your own thing, but if you like a step-by-step process, you're welcome to follow along. What I thought we'd do here is something that isn't too difficult for anyone with simple drawing skills to achieve. I'm going to outline just a series of 3 hearts that overlap. Just have them overlap a little bit, and they don't have to be drawn all that well or carefully. I'm going to use pencil so that it kind of reinforces the boundaries that we're going to paint around. And now what I've done with this coffee here is I've steeped this, for a couple hours, and then I let it sit over the weekend a few days, just letting it evaporate, so that what I have left is a really strong syrup, a little bit thicker than it normally would be, because coffee, when it's put on paper, is going to be very thin. So this helps thicken it up a little bit. So I'm just grabbing a pretty regular brush here, and I'm gonna fill this in. Make it nice and thick, and don't worry about it going past the edge of the pencil. That's part of the charm of this kind of approach. I'm trying to pick something that isn't too precise with the brush, so that the bar for entry is fairly low. Now that's going to dry and give nice little ridges. Now you'll see as it starts drying, it might look fairly thin and weak in some areas, so you might just want to go back in to your cup and dab some more ink, and you can just kind of drop it in here. What I'm also going to do is take the brush, load it up like this, and it wouldn't be complete without a few little speckles around. Just drops of coffee stain. At the very end, I think what could be very fun is to pour some of this contents out on a plate or something, and then dip the bottom of your coffee cup onto the plate, and then just set it down and let that stain on the bottom make that classic coffee cup stain on your page. Wherever you want it, you could offset it and put a little bit so it looks like somebody kind of sloppily put their coffee cup down on the artwork. In fact, I might do that right now. I'm gonna pour a little bit of coffee onto something next to me. I might just set that down here and let that make a bit of a stain. So here it is with the coffee stain. That'll dry nicely when it's done. Right now things are still wet, so I'm kind of jumping the gun a little bit to try to write something on here. But I want to just show you with a brush how you could write a little saying with this that would fit in nicely and just blend in with the coffee. So I'm just going to put coffee plus you equals love, basically. And I'll just write that here. And this can be pretty loose. In fact, it's probably nice to have that naive, loose quality to it. And just try to find the point on the end of your brush, and I'm dabbing paint back in, or ink, because it's really, working with coffee is so weak that it needs to be flooded. Each little letter as I go, I'm flooding it so it'll be dark enough to stain and leave a nice solid color. Coffee plus some more equals. If that's too ambitious using a brush, then I'd suggest using a pencil. Now the materials I have here, again, is the coffee. I'm using Fabriano watercolor paper. You can buy this in pads at Aaron Brothers or Michael's. If they don't have Fabriano, Canson has a good pad of watercolor paper. And I'm just using a pointed hair brush, a fairly thin, fairly small one, and a sharp pencil of any kind. I'm using a 0.5 millimeter mechanical pencil because it keeps a nice thin line. Anyway, I hope this gets your creative mind going and gives you something fun that you can do. And just for the coffee lovers, there are plenty of paints and inks out there that could do the same thing, but doing it in coffee is just kind of fun, and it gives you a little bit of story behind your piece. Any layer of extra meaning, extra intrigue in your piece just adds mystery to and story to the overall piece, which is fun. Thank you all. Okay, one last little touch. I was doing this here with Alyssa to test the feasibility of, or just how well this instruction was transferred, and then I was realizing that if you fold this and just leave the lower lip a little longer than the top lip, you can do one of these nice tricks where you take your brush along the inside like I showed on the front side. Instead of on the front side, you can paint the inner rim with this coffee. Just the edge of the page or card. Let that flood down a bit, give it enough so that it'll make, it's kind of like a deckled edge on the inside, but that'll be covered up. That rough edge will be covered up, so that when you fold this, you'll be getting a nice colored border on the bottom edge, like you see there. And that can be really kind of a nice touch. So I'll let that dry, and we'll see them at the end.